How's it going? Welcome back to a very special video today as we're finally jumping into Doom: The Dark Ages. Yes, that's right. We are going full medieval on these goddamn demonic filth. Let's just pretend every demon that we slay is a politician and it just feels oh, so good.
Talk about cutting people's power off. I'm an Ellie. Troll freaks in big nerd packs, taking everything over, ruling everything, becoming police officers with weapons, tasering us for fun. I've had it with control freaks and scum. Stop being gilded, domesticated garbage.
So sit back, get cozy, get relaxed, or get pumped up and inject 500 steroids into your rectum as we go full force in this Doom: The Dark Ages review. This is an early review of Doom: The Dark Ages, and I just want to cover everything that this game is and what this game isn't, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about what exactly this game is, and for Doom fans, I'm sure you already know, but a lot of you are going to be very surprised that this is not the type of experience that you signed up for, and you're going to be disappointed maybe, but I honestly think this is exactly what the gaming industry needs. This is not the next Doom game. I know that's kind of a controversial statement, but this is a remix, a reimagining of Doom. AAA developers are already losing the fight because they're waiting so long to release brand new games because they have to build it all from the ground up, and then of course it doesn't do so well and they lose a lot of money and they have to lay off a lot of people. This is smart. This is what should be done. Reusing some of the assets, just like they're doing with Elden Ring, recreating the game and remixing it, and that's what we're getting. So I hope you enjoyed this Doom: The Dark Ages review, and I highly hope, fucking hell. YouTube has melted my brain. What I'm trying to say is I highly appreciate it if you consider subscribing to the channel, as I literally pour my very essence and my soul into making these videos, so I would appreciate it a lot. Become a wise one today. It would mean a great deal to me. If you're an independent thinker, you love deep analytical content around video games, early reviews, yearly reviews, and philosophical content, I blend them both together on this channel for a unique experience, I guess. If you hate what YouTube has become with playing sides and all this identity bullshit, trying to make everyone into tribal monkeys, this is good, this is bad, instead of having an objective take, then subscribe to the channel, become a wise one, think for yourself, and think critically. That is the most important. Now, I'm going to get straight into the positives and negatives so I don't waste your time. Stay tuned until the end of the video as I will give you my final verdict. I will quickly say that if you're interested in this game, if you're thinking about playing it early as it does have early access, or if you just want to get a huge discount on this game and you don't want to pay full price as you're not sure about it, or you're just a wise one like myself and you don't like wasting money when you can save some money, thanks to today's sponsor, you can do that. And honestly, I just love this goddamn website so much as it saved me tons of money, and I highly recommend them to you. If you are tired of paying full price for games, then you don't have to look any further. As you can see right now, Doom: The Dark Ages, you can get it already with 21% off, which is pretty insane stuff before the game even comes out. So you get the pre-order bonus at a discounted rate, so you can't really ask for anything better than that. They have it on Xbox as well, on Instant Gaming. You can also buy PS credit on here for discounted rates and then redeem it that way. You get the standard edition or the premium edition at 23% off, and you get 2 days early access and all that good stuff. So I highly recommend you use Instant Gaming. The one thing that I love about them so much is you never have to worry about, not getting the game you order, which is sometimes what you do get with, these grey marketplace websites that resell games, because Instant Gaming is directly using authorized resellers directly from the source, so there's never any issues with anything like that. You always get a game that works 100%. As you can see here, the Trustpilot is crazy, almost 1 million reviews at this point, and it's a very highly rated, trusted website. I wouldn't be partnered with Instant Gaming if it wasn't something I truly believe in. It's a great community here as well. You can leave reviews, discuss the games that you buy. They have, best sellers here. They have the trending tab where you can see all of the recent games coming out, like Oblivion, which is already at a 20% off, which is crazy. Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can get that at almost 30% off now, which is pretty crazy stuff. But if you just want to play the older Doom games, and you don't want to pay full price, then they have huge sales for older games, like 77% off of the original Doom. Any game on this website is discounted, so you never have to worry about paying full price. Just go to Instant Gaming, save yourself some money, enjoy playing the games you want on any platform you want. It covers all of your gaming needs, even subscriptions on Xbox, Game Pass, PlayStation and Steam, of course, and all of your gaming needs are covered. So use my link down below to save yourself some money and support the Wise One community, because only a wise one knows how to save some money. So enjoy the savings while you can. You don't want them to sell out, so enjoy the savings while you can. And thank you so much for using my link, my wise ones. I do hope you have a blast. Now let's get back to the video. Now this is a new direction for Doom, okay? This is not the next Doom game. I mean, it is the next Doom game, but it's not like, I wouldn't say it's the next big Doom game. This is almost a remix, I would say, of Doom Eternal in many ways, and it's playing with many creative ideas, which I really like, as I am a fan of defensive play styles, much more than overly aggressive play styles. That's just, I don't know, call me a soy jack if you want. I don't know what it says about me. I just like, shields up and fucking come to me so I can, I can figure you out like a little chess game, I just like that shit. It's much more tactical this time around, and I think it's awesome, okay? Now, this is not your traditional Doom experience. Don't expect to be zipping around, just balls to the walls with your gun out and just shooting absolutely everything that you see. Of course, this is still very much like that because it is a Doom game, but don't expect that you can play it exactly like the other Doom games, and that's kind of disappointing that you can't play it exactly like the other Doom games if you want it to be that. So what exactly is that rule set? What has changed? Well, now it's basically become a rhythm-based game, almost to a degree, and it's become almost a Souls-like, okay? Because there is a lot of parrying in this game. It's a lot more defensive, it's a lot more tactical, it's a lot more slower. Enemies kind of now slowly kind of come towards you instead of rushing you at all angles and flanking you and stuff like that. You do get that later on. This is only from the hands-on early access stuff, so I can't speak about the full experience, but from what I played at the events, it's much more slower from what I've seen. The enemies are a lot more slower as well from the later game. And the most interesting thing is it's kind of now become a bullet hell to a degree, where you get so many projectiles being thrown at you and you constantly have to be dodging between all of these different projectiles. It's all color-coded, and then, it plays into that parry-based mechanic where you have to basically parry against these projectiles that are color-coded. So it is kind of, it's like a weird hybrid of Doom, Guitar Hero, and Dark Souls, and medieval, genre, and the medieval theming of it all makes it a very unique experience. And if you like that type of game, where you do have to dodge around lots of stuff, that bullet hell experience where there's so many things coming at you and you have to think tactically about, what weapon to use, just like you did in the previous Doom game, to figure out the different enemies here. There's now weak points that you really have to target, so there's a lot more to think about this time around.
We know we're under attack! We know it! We're breaking the conditioning! We're coming for you, globalist!
Now, I do think that Doom the Dark Ages is going to be a mixed game. The reviews for Doom the Dark Ages are going to be rather all over the place, and I talked about that in my previous video, so go check it out if you're interested about the wider discussion in the gaming community, okay? But I personally love this, okay? And I can't obviously say that the full game is amazing, as I've only, seen parts of it and played parts of it, so I can't speak about the full experience. That's why it's an early review, so bear that in mind. But I do think what they're doing here is different, and I quite like it a lot actually. In many ways I prefer it to the, you know, kind of almost like stripped back simple Doom experience of just running around shooting everything. It's less visceral, I would say, and less you know, kind of ooga ooga, kind of that primal just joy that you get for just blowing shit up. Instead you get that deep, almost, you know, satisfying high that you get when you're defeating, you know, a big boss in, you know, like a challenging game or a Souls-like experience, something like that. Obviously it's a very different game, but you get that same satisfaction of, you know, figuring out how to take down these enemies, getting the parries off correctly, finding the weak points of the enemies, and then taking them down. But I do think it is disappointing that you don't have enough variation that you can play like the old Dooms. If you wanted to, you do have to play with this new rule set in mind. So now let's get deep into the positives and negatives. And yes, it might look like I'm fondling imaginary Doom guy balls, but I'm actually just excited because if you can't tell, it's pretty refreshing to have a game trying something creative for once in the AAA space. And that's exactly what we need to encourage more of. So let's get straight into the positives and negatives now. Now, I do want to quickly say that I always state if I have a bias towards something as well. In any, you know, review that I do, it's only fair, I think, and then we can keep it as objective as possible that I try to be. And yes, I do have a bias towards this type of experience because, like I said, I love defensive play. I love more tactical games that allow you to think, not just shoot randomly, but you have to actually, you know, play smartly and, you know, think about your choices. Also, I am a huge fan of the medieval settings and anything medieval, so there you go, that's my biases out of the way. So the first positive is just the variation you get in Doom: The Dark Ages. That is what's impressive to me right off the bat, is they are trying a lot of different things here. Some of it lands, some of it doesn't, okay? So first of all, you get the whole new, you know, just gameplay style of this experience. Second, you get the dragon riding segments. Then you get the mech, you know, segments of becoming this giant mech warrior and just punching other giant mechs in the face, which is quite good. Punch them in the face. And then of course you have your shield, which does all kinds of things, like I said, that plays into the new gameplay mechanics, but also the puzzles as well. And then the open zone levels themselves that have different mini games in them, not exactly different mini games, but, you know, like different objectives to complete, horde modes, you know, like timer based missions, bosses, stuff like that. So there's a lot of new stuff, a lot of variation here. Like I said, some of it works, but you can't deny that they aren't trying to add a bunch of new stuff to the formula. Now the next thing I want to highlight, which is sadly a negative, yes, that's correct, because we can't all live in Wonderland. You know, no game is perfect. As much as I do think this is a good game, it's not perfect. And that is simply the fact that enemies in this are far less interesting, I would say, compared to the previous games. I wouldn't say that they're, you know, easier, because the combat system that you have to play with now is a lot more tactical, like I already stressed. But now enemies don't flank you as much. They kind of move slowly towards you as a, you know, horde, and it's very clear, you know, what you need to do to take them out, you know, what you need to parry and get them weakened and stuff like that. It's not so much that you're dodging around all of these different enemies, more that they're coming towards you, shooting at you, and the projectiles are almost more in slow motion, that you have plenty of time to dodge them, but there's just so much more shit going on screen at any given point, so it is still, you know, very frantic, and you still have to do a lot of movement, but it's just a little bit more different, you know, with how the enemies react to you, their AI, and, you know, just their kind of aggressiveness and stuff like that. And that's going to be a positive for some and a negative, but I think overall I would have liked them to see, overall I would have liked a mixed bag so you get both experiences. That would have been much better. So let's quickly talk about the dragon ride in Dragonborn. So you might have heard other people say this, but to be honest, this is quite surprising. It almost feels like an arcade game, and you might have heard that other people aren't really happy with it. I honestly think it's not that bad. To be honest, it reminds me of kind of old school PS2 games where you get like a flight segment in a game, or you're literally playing like one of those kind of retro arcadey, you know, flight simulators or space combat games It is very much akin to that. It doesn't feel great, I would say, because I don't like that you have to lock onto enemies. It would be much better if you could freely aim around and have much more movement and control over your dragon. So it's a nice pacing kind of event, and it can be fun at times, but the movement just feels completely off, and that's the biggest thing, and I hope they fix it with the full release. But so far it's just not that great, and they could have made it better if they just added more freedom to it. That was my only 2 cents, changing the controls and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's a nice callback to that type of experience, and if you're a fan of that type of arcadey flight shoot 'em up experience, then you might like it. And I personally don't think it's terrible. It just would be a hell of a lot better with much more freedom and just better physics and feeling when you're flying around. Now, the next positive is the fact that enemies are much more big boys. Okay, they're the big boys this time around. And you're not fighting a lot of bunch of little, goblins, running around with soy lattes, okay? Big mumba bumbas, okay? Big boys, big juices, big mumba bumbas, okay? That's who you're fighting this time. And basically what I like about it is because they are far more armored, you really have to, focus on a, single target, take down all the little runts around them, and then focus on these big juicy boys. But what I like about it is the fact that basically they're a lot more meaty, and it's not in a tanky sense where it feels like they take way too much damage. It's much more like now you have to focus on standout weak points of the enemy, and get up close and personal to take down those weak points. Use the new parry mechanic and all that kind of stuff, the shield, and it just utilizes all of the different tool sets, so then you can get in there and shoot them. The next thing is going to be a positive or a negative depending on where you stand and how much you enjoyed the previous game's cinematics and storytelling. Okay, so this time around it's going to focus heavily much more on a linear story being told to you through cinematics and stuff like that. The Doom guy has always been this silent, protagonist, this kind of just champion of corruption, and all the demons fear him, and it's very empowering to play as Alex Jones, as the Doom guy. This time around, I would say that power fantasy is a little bit less because of the new gameplay style of it all. But what I do like about it is the fact that they're going more deeper into the lore, but some of it should just kind of be left a mystery. I don't think they need to over-explain everything, and there are much more, story figure characters in this time around, and kind of like they did with God of War. It's a very, visceral, just kind of manly game that you just kind of switch off your brain and just slice through a bunch of enemies, and then they turned him into a daddy. Because making Kratos into a caring daddy figure is exactly what we all need in our lives. Quite clearly, when you look at the state of the internet, we all massively craving daddy figures in our lives because we can't man up ourselves. Or you could actually be that figure for yourself if you just push yourself and learn and innovate and work and better yourself. But let's not talk about that. I love deep philosophical stories that make you think and question your own morality, your own choices in video games. But Doom is not that type of experience, and I don't need these preachy characters telling me what to think and what to do. It just feels a little bit off, but some people will enjoy the story, and from what I've seen, it's done very well, so it just depends how much you like that type of experience in your Doom game. The next positive is the fact that you get tons of unique weapons this time around. You get this chain ball gun, you get a gun that literally spits out bones, you get a rail spike gun that will, just literally harpoon enemies to each other, which is fantastic. And then of course your shield is a weapon itself. And you can use it in the puzzles, and you can use it to bash enemies. And of course your shield is a weapon itself, as it's basically a chain sword shield. If that exists, it does now, and it's pretty awesome, to be honest. So I really do like that there's tons of new weapons here, but it's less focused on guns, more focused on melee, like your mace and stuff like that. So don't expect a huge upgrade tree for your weapons this time around, but more around the melee side and your toolkit, okay? But this time, with the perk tree and leveling up, they've gone for a very interesting approach. It's a lot more catered to your playstyle this time around, so you can really tweak it, but you still can't get that OG Doom experience this time around. So there's a lot more, player expression with how you want to level up, what tools you choose to level up, but you still can't go back to that original Doom experience. But I do like that they give you plenty of options, and you can even have build variations, which is something that we've never been able to say before in other Doom games, to be honest. The next thing I want to highlight is a negative, which is kind of sad, but just hear me out for a second, and that is the puzzles, okay? The puzzles themselves are not very engaging. You are using your shield this time around for a lot of the puzzles, lots of color, coded stuff, and at times it does kind of make you feel like a goo goo gaga, a baby looking at all of these different shiny colors, and you just have to match the colors. And puzzles are there to break up the gameplay, to give you some pacing. I would much rather see them lean more into the medieval fantasy and go, more dungeon crawling or something like that, or have like more mini game modes to mix up the gameplay, because they can be very creative with Doom. It's always been that kind of, creative type of game where they can go balls to the walls and have you go back and play a retro version of Doom within Doom itself. It's always been that type of experience. It doesn't take itself so serious that you can't play around with elements like that, or more platforming, something like that. Playing with that medieval trope, having a jousting tournament or something crazy like that would be cool to see. But the puzzles themselves aren't very engaging, they aren't very good, and they are simply just there to halt and make you kind of stop and breathe for a second. They aren't actually puzzles that require you to think that much, so that's why I give them a negative as a pacing mechanism. But they have got other things here which the other Doom games didn't have, like tanks, mini bosses to take down, and because now it's gone open zone, there's different mini games to engage with where it's time trials, bosses to take down, or horde modes, stuff like that. And I just wish that the open zone levels now had more in them instead of just being giant arenas, because it feels pretty much the same, but now you just have to run a lot further. There's no meaningful exploration or something cool to discover. There are secrets, of course, but it just feels like a bigger space, and not really that much has changed. And of course there are still collectibles to be found, secrets to discover, and I really like that about Doom. But, just the mini games themselves feel very arcadey, and they could have gone more into that medieval setting, played around with different ideas to break up the gameplay, have more platforming challenges and stuff like that, especially in these open environments. I'm not saying there isn't any platforming here, but it does feel less vertical this time around and more, just kind of spaced out, a lot more strafing. So overall, Doom the Dark Ages, what do I actually think about this game? Do I recommend it? As there is a lot of positives here, but there are a few negatives, sometimes a bit more negatives than I would have liked. But honestly, it's still a great experience, and I absolutely love the setting. I love more tactical gameplay. I just think that they tried a lot of different ideas and a lot of them didn't work. It feels very arcadey in places. Same thing with the mech combat. I didn't really talk about that. That's because there's not much to talk about. It's very simple. You're told exactly what to do, where to hit. At times it feels like it takes away your freedom. When the other Doom games let you just go balls to the walls with, shooting and stuff like that. It feels more limiting in some areas, but also a lot more fulfilling when you do, take down a boss or something like that with the new gameplay system. But sometimes, it feels a bit basic, like it's all color-coded and you're just, like this baby matching colors instead of being this badass warrior. So it's a very mixed bag. I really do like some of the elements that they play with, some of the more defensive play, but I just wish they let you play with both genres of Doom, in this one experience, but you can't really do that. But I still like the, the combat changes for the most part. I think it's very interesting, and I love the variation in this. The fact that there is a lot to do here, and I haven't even seen all of it, obviously, so there might be even more big surprises, and I wouldn't be surprised, because it's just that type of experience where they are adding so much to this game, but I really don't think that the open zone levels add much to the experience. In fact, they take away some of that more focused gameplay time that the other Doom games had. It being less frantic and the enemies being slower this time around, again, that kind of isn't the best, but because they've added this bullet hell projectile type experience on top of it, then it makes sense, and I really do like that aspect. So I guess you couldn't have both, but it just would be cool to kind of mix them both together in one experience. Then it would be a masterpiece. But I still think it's a great game, and I do highly recommend Doom: The Dark Ages. And yeah, check it out if you are interested in this. Like I said, pre-order the game, or download it, buy it day one by using my link, because you get a huge discount already before it's even released, which is crazy, but that's what is so great about instant gaming. And it's a little gift for the wise ones out there who are supporting my channel by liking the video. That really does mean a lot, and subscribing if you're new, and just returning and watching my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. This community is everything to me, and I just am so passionate about what I'm doing here. And if you do want to support a much more independent channel, I'm not obviously a huge creator as of yet, I would highly appreciate it by dropping a thanks or anything like that. It does go a long way, as I'm trying to do this full time. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that the soundtrack in this game is absolutely incredible, okay? It's so good. It is a different composer this time around, I believe, but I think they did a fantastic job. If you like that heavy, dark synth stuff with the old games, not just so much just for, kind of heavy guitar and bass, check out my music that I create on Spotify if you like that type of music, as I create a similar genre, and I think you'll quite like it actually. And it is all thanks to the wise ones who come back and watch my videos. I really do appreciate you. I just love having a conversation with you down below in the comments, so sound off on what you think about this game, Doom: The Dark Ages, and just Doom, the IP in general. And stay tuned for more deeper analytical content on video games. I'm going to do some more video essays soon, not just reviews and some philosophical stuff. But I just appreciate the wise ones for watching. It does mean everything. And I hope you have an awesome day today or night, whatever, wherever you are. Thanks so much, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Have a great day. Peace out.